It's my great pleasure to host Dilara Keküllüoğlu. So let me briefly introduce her. She's a postdoc at School of Informatics, University of Edinburgh. She currently works in the responsible AI domain, aiming to provide answers to people who were harmed by autonomous system decisions by using dialogical frameworks. Her research interests include privacy and responsible AI, computational social science, human-computer interaction, and natural language processing. Dilara received her PhD degree from Edinburgh in 2022 with her thesis analyzing privacy in online social media, where she investigated user behaviors and understanding regarding privacy online. Dilara holds bachelor and master's degrees in computer engineering from Boğaziçi University. So welcome, Dilara, and the stage is yours. Thanks for coming.
Oh, thank you for inviting me, and thank you for having me and coming after, I guess, very tiring days. And then I think this talk is going to be kind of like my career progression between my job in the University of Edinburgh, my PhD, and my postdoc. And then if I did focus on analyzing user behaviors, and now assisting users in ever advancing technology. And then to give you a self-introduction, a small self-introduction, I did start my academic career in 2015 at Boğaziçi University. I did my master's on privacy negotiation and on privacy negotiation with multi-agent systems, which combined multi-agent systems and privacy fields. And then I went into the University of Edinburgh to do my PhD. And I did work more on analyzing privacy in online social media, which combined privacy, computation, social science, and human-computer interaction. And then in between, I did a summer internship with Max Planck Institute of Security and Privacy. We worked, this was on privacy and human-computer interaction. We actually worked with Turkish startup developers to get their perceptions of privacy and security while they are developing in their companies. And then afterwards, I continued into my postdoc, changed fields a bit at the University of Edinburgh in a different group that was on responsible artificial intelligence, where, as Gözde said, we are working on trying to compensate and give answers to people who are harmed by automated decisions by the companies employed AI systems. And then this also combines multi-agent systems, human-computer interaction, and responsible AI fields. And then in the next stages of my career, I am planning to do two main tracks with privacy, social norms, and then responsible generative AI. So in this talk, I'm not going to talk about all of these, but I'm just going to focus on my PhD work and my postdoc work, with also some focus on my future works. To start with my PhD work, I did work on privacy. In my PhD, I did in total 4 studies, and then they were divided into 2 tracks. The first track was about privacy leaks in online social networks. This was about detecting the privacy leaks that happens in online social networks. And then in my second part of my PhD, I worked on, okay, now I see the privacy violations. What about the settings? Are they effective? Do people know what the settings are doing? Or are some people are using the settings in different ways than maybe intended? I guess you could say that in my PhD, I was mostly focused on information flow that is not intended by the owners and co-owners. So co-owners would be, if in social media, co-owners would be everyone you share your things with. For example, in Twitter, that would be whole internet. But I guess in this context, I'm more thinking about owners, the people who sharing things, and then the co-owners would be their friends and families, or maybe intended audience that they think they are sharing things with. The people that they are sharing could be more than that. So this is why I actually focused on Twitter, because I will go into why I did go onto Twitter instead of other social media platforms. But let me just give you a summary of what I did on Twitter. I did 4 studies with combinations of different methods. They're usually mixed method studies. The first part will be generally a Twitter data collection. I collect mass public data via Twitter API, rest in peace, to detect and quantify a behavior. And then I do go into, okay, I detected a behavior from the data quantitatively. I see an interesting behavior. So why is this happening? Why are people doing this? So I do go to the users and do user surveys, and these user surveys are targeted questions around the detected behavior to get nuanced understanding. And then these user surveys could be open-ended to do questions with less people to get qualitative analysis, thematic analysis to get really understand nuanced behavior. And then afterwards, for example, doing a closed-ended multiple choice question surveys to get the prevalence of the behavior that we detected. To give you a brief recap and background of my PhD work, really, like I'm sure most of the people know what a social media is at this point, but social media are places that you form connections, share information, and you also observe and interact with others. I'm mostly interested in interacting others aspects of social media. What happens is that the previous research shows that users underestimate the size of the audience, so they think they are sharing with maybe their only families and friends, but actually in the reality they are sharing more than, I think that the study was that I think it was either 30%. So they did go in to ask people how many people do you think this post is shared to, and then usually they would highly underestimate the size. And then there is a data inference problem where people share something on Twitter and then Instagram is used for something else. And then they use maybe the same username, so they could be chained, and there's like a data chaining attack that could be used in social engineering. And then this could cause unintended privacy leaks, which I am interested in. So this is like a really small example. I'm not sure if anyone remembers Foursquare, where you like there was a really big trend where people would just check in where they were. I don't remember the year, but and then that actually will signal that you're not at home, because it was kind of the trend and the social norm that you would check in just right there when you were there, not afterwards. And then so they created this little sites to say, to raise awareness about the users sharing, oversharing about their, for example, location in this case. So what happens, how the users can protect their privacy? Platforms provide privacy settings to manage their information flow and their privacy, and then regulate their interactions. But usually these settings are less restrictive. So the default settings are usually less restrictive because it doesn't help companies for you to protect your privacy, I guess, to the ideal privacy levels you want. And then the studies show that default settings are preferred by the users, or users only do just set once at the start when they create their account and then don't change it at all. And then we did see that users struggle configuring their private settings as intended. And it doesn't help that these private settings are not standardized throughout the platforms. So some platforms have different, for example, highly granular settings like Facebook, where you can change every post to really like minute details. And then for example, Twitter has simpler settings where it's only, there's like a binary choice. You are either protected or public. And then in my studies, I focused on Twitter. Why Twitter? Because it's highly public. Anyone can see the tweets by default. So it's not anyone logged into Twitter, anyone. So that means also the search engines also now that become ChatGPT, these things are indexing everything you write. So they can, for example, Twitter data, they can get your Twitter data and say, for example, I created a chatbot that tweets at Dilara, or a famous person, and then, or both. And then interactions increase visibility, and then there's like simpler private settings that are account based, so you're either public or protected. And then changing the account setting actually changes your whole account. So what happens is that if you're a protected account and you decided to change to public for some reason, all the tweets you sent in 5 years ago, for example, are all now up for grabs. And then platforms with granular settings like Facebook are highly researched. So I wanted to go into Twitter to see if this simple private settings, and then how the users interact with this, and then how the users' actions are, and then if they understand what these settings are and can they protect their privacy efficiently. So to address the elephant in the room, I guess, this is Twitter. I'm calling it Twitter. I'm not calling it X at this presentation or at all, I'm not sure. But Twitter studies in this one are conducted between 2019 and 2022, just before Elon Musk takeover. So this presentation reflects the functionality from that time. I'm going to give you a small background on what functionalities were there when I was doing my studies. And I will use the terminology of the time of the studies for the consistency. After this disclaimer, just give you a really small recap of what Twitter accounts were at that time. There were only public accounts and protected accounts. The public ones are default. Anyone can see your tweets, any user can follow, and others can interact freely with you. But for protected account, if you protected your account, then only followers can see your tweets, and then people need to send you approval requests to follow you. And then followers can like or reply, but cannot retweet or quote tweet at this point. And then, as I said, I am more interested in interactions and then the privacy violations by the interactions. So to give you a functionality of interactions and privacy on Twitter, visibility of the tweets depends on the Twitter's account type. So what that means is that there's no control on the tweets that mention you. And also, even if you're protected and your follower is a public and reply to your tweet, that reply is public. So what that means is that looking at that reply, you can actually infer what the protected person was saying. And then deleting the tweet does not delete the replies. They stay on the platform. So even if you regret saying something, you can delete that, but the replies can also leak information. I think we can see that maybe people who go viral overnight and they don't want the attention anymore and they just delete it, but you can also see the screenshots, but that's another thing. I am focusing more on the functionality of the Twitter's platform. And then these three topics, as I said, may be inferred by looking at replies and mentions, and searching at username will bring all public interactions. So even if I have a protected account, I say at Dilara Keküllüoğlu, and then you can see every person who replied to me or did interactions with me. So this seems like a stalking cheat sheet. Please don't use it for malicious reasons. So to give you an outline of now we can go into my PhD work after this background. So the first part of my work, I did this analyzing privacy leaks on online social networks. So I worked on two main tracks: life events detection and then birthdays, which is date of birth leaks, which can cause also like security implications other than privacy ones. So I wanted to focus on what kind of personal information are disclosed online by networks on Twitter by exploiting this functionality I just mentioned. Only looking at replies, what can we say about the parent tweet? So what I did, I collected happy for you tweets that have happy for you, over 635K tweets that mention someone. I didn't want to look at tweets that were only by themselves, so I wanted them to mention someone's tweet so that like it was a reply to someone's tweet, so I can understand, oh, they were talking about this person and they were talking about this life event. So what I did is that I applied latent reflect allocation LDA to this data set and tweets, and then I did get 12 life events, which I'll get into in the next. I'll give some details in the next slide. But what we showed, basically briefly, what we showed with this one, events can be inferred by the replies, and then even sensitive and private matters is not like safe, and then protected accounts are not protected enough, and then potential leak of personally identified information on social media. So if you look at the life event topics, I have like 12 life events, and this is just keep in mind that this is happy for you. So these should be usually happy life events. So I did look at the sad for you in my studies, but it was really, it wasn't easy to clean sad for you. They were sometimes sarcastic, sometimes they were really sad for the person. But that's why I wanted to just focus on happy for you, which was cleaner to get apply LDA and get life events. So even in this one, we have things like cancer in family, or mental health issues, or maybe surgery recovery. So it's happy for you. So it's like, I'm happy that your surgery recovery went well, but still sensitive information. And then you can see the green ones are the ones that were replies to public accounts, so you can see the tweet. But for the red ones, they are the protected accounts, so I cannot access the original tweet, but I can understand what they were saying. And then in my second study, I did focus on birthdays because it was a big chunk in my life events, and also it's a huge use case of Twitter. So birthday celebrations are encouraged. We know that we do like to celebrate birthdays with our friends and family, and maybe in larger people. But with the introduction of online social media, we moved this social norm and social behavior to the online social media without maybe understanding the implications of now we are sharing things with the whole wide world. And then I did do non-filtered, like only English filtered. And then I did do 2 weeks of sampling and collecting the Twitter API stream without any filtering other than the language. And then 0.85%, this is a huge number, of all the tweets that was sent in 2 weeks had the word birthday in them. So this is a huge use case, and also Twitter also gives you balloons in your profile. Actually, yesterday I went to Twitter and it just said add your date of birth, add your birthday information to your profile. We will give you balloons or something. So they are actively pushing this. And then birthday tweets that have age, it means that your date of birth is now I guess exposed. This is used in authentication. Maybe not here that much, but in UK you can call NHS. And then you can just give them, it's the National Health Services, you can give them your surname and your date of birth, they will give you your test results, basically. So it's used in authentication. Even if it's not the only one part of authentication, you can chain information and then get more information and do some kind of social engineering with this information. So it's a security implication too. And then people like to use their date of birth in their passwords or their pins is conveniently 4-digit number. And then in my study, I found that date of birth was exposed for 1,000 accounts daily. This is a lower threshold. I didn't even look at HBD. I didn't look at misspellings. I only looked at happy birthday. And then we see that 10% of these people are rejected. Yes.
So you were mentioning something about 2 weeks. So this was from 2 weeks.
Oh no, that 2 weeks is only for 0.85% English tweet birthday. The whole data collection I did for birthday study was I think around 40 days, 45 days, and it was 2.8 million tweets that had mentioning one person and then had happy birthday in it. So this is just to show you the scale of the birthday tweets on Twitter, basically.
And the results, for example, this so 10% protected, 90% is exposed.
So 10% yeah, thank you for catching that. 10% of the tweets were mentioning a protected account.
I see.
So they were saying happy birthday, happy 30th birthday to someone who protected their account. Maybe they said, hey, it's my 30th birthday. But the reply, I couldn't see the tweet, but from the reply, I could see that they were their date of birth, basically, because I know when did I collected the tweet. And then another interesting finding from this one is that we asked people how comfortable. We did a survey afterwards to see, okay, this is a prevalent behavior on Twitter, and also it's used on authentication, maybe less so, and then compared to 20 years ago, but still some kind of a part of authentication. How comfortable are users with birthday celebrations on public, and then public social media? And then 68% said that we are comfortable with birthday sharing. And then surprisingly, nearly half of them said they were comfortable with date of birth. So in our paper, I guess our message is that date of birth should not be used for authentication. I know this was the message for the 20 years, but this is like a really like a good, I guess, a nail in the coffin that you shouldn't use date of birth in your authentication methods. And then one really interesting finding from this one, because when I was collecting my data from Twitter, I did notice that I was able to access some tweets at some point, but I wasn't able to maybe 2 days later. But 4 days later, I could access it again, the same tweet, so it's not deleted. So I wasn't sure what was happening. Then I realized that the person who sent the tweet was changing their private settings. So they were public, they turned protected, and they turned public again, which is really not consistent with the study findings where they were saying is default settings are preferred or people change it once and leave it like that. So why are people doing this on Twitter, which I'll go into my next study. But in this one, we wanted to catch this behavior. Like we didn't know if how prevalent was it on Twitter, but we were like, okay, because I didn't do any collection on that regard. But we were like, okay, in this survey, we could ask people either what's your account type? Is it public or protected or sometimes protected? And we were like, okay, how many people are going to select sometimes protected? And 10% did. So it seems like in this survey that we didn't look for people who are switching or changing their account settings. We did catch like 10%. So in my second study, I was really interested in this behavior. So I wanted to look at the private settings used and understanding of people on Twitter, and then why are these people are doing this, and do they understand what it's doing, basically. So I think I had one more, maybe, yeah. Okay. So yeah, as I said, this maybe this was the introduction settings, but sometimes protected settings apply to whole account. So visibility of the tweets depends on the posted account types, and there are hidden interactions by protected accounts. So if someone, for example, has a protected account, wants to reply to a famous person, wants to be heard, or wants to reply to someone, they have to open their account to be seen. But that means that they're opening their whole account for, as I said, up for grabs. And then this seems like a really common behavior, or maybe more common than I expected, or researchers expected. So switching phenomena occur frequently on Twitter. So I was really interested in why the users change their private settings on Twitter. And then I did, again, this was the study that combined all of the things, that Twitter data collection and user survey. And then the first part, I observed Twitter 100 over 100K protected Twitter accounts. I observed their changes, account type changes for 3 months. Every 30 minutes, I ping them. And then I saw that nearly 40% changed their account types over 90 days, 91, I think. And then surprisingly, over 10%, I think 10% changed more than 10 times. There was one person who changed 287 times, I think. That's like more than 3 times a day. And then I did compare, for example, now I have the person, and I did collect their tweets when they were public, and I know the timeline because I've been pinging every 30 minutes. So I know what tweets they sent when they were protected or public. So I can now compare, is there any change what they are saying when they are public or protected? I did compare the statistical analysis and then found that people tweet and mention others more when they are public. And then really interestingly mention non-followers more in non-usual settings. That means that when they are protected, they mention people more when they are public. Usually, if they are mostly protected persons, so 70% of the time they're protected, but they do change more to public to mention others, which makes sense because they want to be seen. But on the other hand, people who are mostly public change the protected to mention non-followers. So it's kind of like a back-talking way, I think. So it shouldn't be seen. I don't know if they are mentioning someone, but they don't want to be seen. Maybe they delete it afterwards before going back to public. I'm not sure what that happens. That's really interesting behavior there. And then I did afterwards do user service.
Ask a quick question.
Yes.
So here, so Twitter has like a bot/fake account problem.
Yeah, you're right. That's a really good question.
Because those kinds of accounts can act pretty randomly, I guess.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you're right.
Kind of elimination process here.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think at the start of this process, I started to look at botometer to like kind of detect the bots. But since these accounts are prone to changing their accounts, and botometer does rely on public accounts because they do collect their tweets first and then do an analysis. So in my data set, they weren't really feasible. You're right that I didn't filter out bots. But if the bots are changing their private settings really frequently or automatically, that's a really interesting behavior. I didn't get into that. Why would they do that? But I didn't look into that into my in this study. But that's a really good question. And then what I did was we did also, by the way, yeah, I did also do an LDA analysis with the text to see if they were, for example, sharing sensitive content more when they're protected or public. But I didn't see any change. So that might mean that they are actually saying the same things, but they are changing for other reasons, or they are deleting tweets before changing back to public. So, and then actually in the surveys, this was from the data, but in the surveys, we did see that this was a prevalent. I think nearly half of the people said that they are deleting tweets before turning back to public, which is actually a really other interesting behavior. But what I did was afterwards I did user surveys, open text to create common reasons, to do a thematic analysis with qualitative analysis, and then I did follow up with multiple choice to measure prevalence. I recruited users who switched and also divided them according to their audience type. So public doesn't mean that they haven't switched at all, but that means that maybe they are maybe 80% of the time public and then 20% of the time protected and such. And then I did look at the really small, I guess, overview of what I found is that people turn public to interact with others, which is what is expected. So people do enter, like, for example, giveaways, because giveaways do like make sure that you have to stay public until the giveaway ends. And then to mention, reply other users, retweet other users, and gain more followers. And then people turn protected to share their personal content and regulate their boundaries. So that means that they are doing things like, I wanted to prevent non-followers from seeing my tweets, is one way. And then some people on the other side say to prevent people I know, such as friends and family, from seeing my tweets. So different people using for different things and behaviors. They can hear me now. But people do regulate interactions rather than the content. And then in the last part of my PhD study, I was like, okay, these people change their privacy settings really frequently. Do they understand their Twitter privacy functionality better than the people who doesn't switch or people who are just public? And then I got into, this is only a survey study, which was done by 336 participants. I asked 4 types of questions: individual tweet visibility, things like if someone is protected, who can see their tweets, or if someone is protected and now public, who can see their tweets. And then public and protected account information is like if Bob is protected, who can see their profile picture, or if Alice is public, who can like their follower count or those kind of things. And interaction visibility is the one that I am mostly interested in, was that if Alice is protected and Bob is public and Bob replies to Alice, who can see the tweet. So this is the case that I mentioned in the first, that we know now that everyone can see it, but in the survey, we saw that people were struggling with that. So you can see this is the overall participant accuracy in the information, visibility questions. People do quite understand the individual tweet visibility and public protected account information, but with interaction, they are struggling a lot. So if you look at the one that of the upper left, that's the one that I've been talking about, a public account replying to protected account. And then you can see that the people were struggling answering that correctly. But with the last row, you can see that's the interaction with the public accounts. People knew what was happening there quite clearly. So yeah, and then in this last study of my PhD, we understood that individual information visibility is understood, but interaction is unclear. And then we analyzed the indicators of better understanding, and we found that the Twitter usage and interacting with protected accounts were the indicators of better understanding. But our hypothesis was that switching people would understand better. It didn't hold out, and then it didn't. Is it hold out? And then we saw that they actually switching privacy settings did not translate into better understanding necessarily. And yeah, that was my PhD work, and it was mostly focused on analyzing things on privacy. And then I wanted to go into doing more prototyping, more things that could increase the users' well-being. I guess in my PhD, continuing on my PhD work would be, if I had more time, it's 3 years in UK, was going into increasing privacy awareness actually on Twitter, maybe with bots or maybe some privacy nudges, but I didn't get into that. So I wanted to do some work that was focused more on user interacting and then increasing users' well-being. So I wanted to go into this project with multi-agent systems, human-computer interaction, and responsible AI. That was on answerable social technical systems. There are lots of terms. I'll go into the terms now to give you an understanding what this project was about. This is a project that the now is trying to connect people who were harmed by automated actions by AI systems that were employed by companies, and then to give answers to them, to the users who were harmed, give answers. So it's not only explainable AI, but also give justifications and remedies, and then try to, I guess, increase the well-being of the user with the situation, because understanding why it's happening sometimes doesn't help. Maybe I want it to change, or maybe I want it to, in the future, to be better. So social technical systems that combine social and technical factors. There are many humans and many machine components working together. The internal workings may not be clear, and then external, internal independencies, even in like big companies. When something goes wrong, it's not really clear who is responsible all the time. So this will create a responsibility gap. So this is called like a many hands problem. There are many hands going into one action and decision. So it's not easy to understand who would be responsible for answering. So it's more complicated when black box AI systems are involved. And then we argue that there's answerable systems are needed. So what do we mean by answerable? Is answerability is a way to build trust but not only through explanations. So for justifications, excuses, reforms, and sometimes restitutions, and maybe future promises. So okay, I know you were harmed by this action, and we are sorry about this, and we are definitely going to make sure that we are going to change it. We cannot change it for you right now because it's been done, but we are going to change it for other users, and we will going to report it back to you, so you know that we are keeping our promises. Kind of like a commitment to companies. And then we have an example scenario that we use. So in this project, we have three. I'll go into that, but we have three domains: health, finance, and government. So this is our scenario for health. We do have scenarios for finance and government too. And then this scenario is a real case. Opioid treatment stopped in a hospital in US because of high addiction score, opioid addiction score. That was calculated by a third-party company, not even by the hospital. And then this third-party company was using different user variables like number of prescriptions, number of like doctors, number of kilometers that a person traveled to get prescriptions, those kind of stuff. They just give these features in their company, I guess, case studies, but it's not really clear how these features are interacting and how they are calculating their score. And this person, she was in the hospital mid-treatment. They stopped the treatment. And then she suffered a lot. And then after cumbersome investigation of I don't know how many months, but then she found out that her sick dog's opioid prescriptions were on her name, and that hiked the score really incorrectly. And then this caused a lot of chain effect. Like other than the treatment stopping, I think her pharmacy also stopped giving her service. And then her gynecologist, I think too. So it's like a chain reaction of things, and then it wasn't really easy. So in our case, we want to be able to, like, for this Catherine person to have a direct path of like knowing when things go wrong, I will do this. There's like a channel for me to like reach people that could fix this, and then go into that, and then have that get answers on why things are happening, and possibly like I don't know, don't even use the risk score. But yeah, this is an interdisciplinary project actually between a School of Philosophy in the University of Edinburgh and Usher Institute. That Usher Institute is about, they are having researchers from sociology and law. So this is highly interdisciplinary project that we are doing, and in informatics, we are 3 people. We do have external partners, NHSX, Scottish Government, and SAS. And then people, our colleagues from the philosophy department are looking things at what does it mean for an autonomous system to be responsible? Can an autonomous system even be responsible? Or how can we increase the trust to autonomous systems? by providing them answerable or responsible practices. And then second team on the Usher Institute, they are working on anticipating what type of answers are people wanting, need from such social technical systems. So they go into our partners in the industry and they do focus workshops, focus groups, and interviews to understand when they are using these tools, what do they need? And also in informatics, what we have is can we design a dialogue agent that will expedite the process of seeking answers for users? Just a disclaimer, this dialogue agent proposal came just, I think, 1 year before Chatbot Boom. But then I think it can be a blessing or curse in disguise, but we'll see how that goes. But when we say dialogue agent, we are using a chatbot interface, but our underlying technology is more like a really formal dialogue steps and locutions in multi-agent systems, dialogue systems. But I'll go into that. And then, yeah, as I said, so what we do for the informatics department is that we are trying to create and design a dialogue system that will match the needs of the users. So we aim to increase the user's understanding and enable harmful actions to be examined and addressed by the companies who use these autonomous systems, and then identify and connect users with companies that to seek restitution. And then this can be done in really various ways, but as our team, we decided to go with 3-stage dialogue with users. We were like, okay, explanation stage, that will be an explainable AI techniques, and then go into action update if the action could be updated, and then the update of the action is beneficial for the user. And then afterwards, we could go to remedy, which people can ask things for an apology or maybe future change or maybe monetary compensation. And then, of course, I want to go into this one, but monetary compensation might not be really feasible for things, for example, for Catherine's case. Okay, maybe it can be a part of it, but it needs a lot of more answers. But for example, it's like if something is like your luggage getting lost on the airport, maybe you're okay with $25 voucher. But there's a really different types of remedies for different types of actions. So this is keep in mind, it's really a work in progress. I still have some time on this. So we are doing a formal representation of dialogue steps using dialogue game description language, is DGDL. And then we define locutions and dialogue states and controls. And then we are creating anthologies that define relations between actions and reasons. For example, which actions have which reasons to explain. And also harms and remedies. So which harms are suitable for, which remedies are suitable for which harms. And then we do have a small chatbot interface to map user intents to mediator agent actions in the backend to mine the Rasa chatbot. And then I think at this point, our plans for this project, I'm not sure if we are going with this, but yeah. Yeah, maybe like a small, okay. My screen is not moving, but that's okay. It's moving in this one. So this is like I think it's too technical maybe, but just to give you an overview of the system pipeline, we do have like a DGDL engine that has the players' roles, like a formal dialogue representation. And then we do have an ontology and human representative when the mediator agent is not able to solve the problems. And also maybe human, we are giving users the ability to reach a human representative at all times. But yeah. I guess, yeah, before going into that, like our I guess, plans for this project right now is to do workshops with developers to maybe evaluate the feasibility of our tool, and then do a user survey to see what kind, if you're in this scenario, what kind of harms and what kind of remedies would you accept for these harms and such, to give like a harm remedy coupling, and then in the future maybe do user modeling and simulations with these answers we have to maybe, I'm not sure if I'll have time for that, maybe after my postdoc, to have kind of like a learning to, like, for example, for these harms, these remedies made people more satisfied, so let's go with this, and that a mediator agent would have that features. But yeah, lastly, for my, I guess, my plans for the future, I want to combine my expertise in privacy, computational social science, human-computer interaction, and responsible AI, and maybe in the future multi-agent systems, to have two main tracks. So first one of them is like more related to my PhD, is online social norms and privacy behaviors. And then the second one is generative AI tools and user perceptions. And then I'll go into them one by one. So the first one is online social norms and privacy behavior. So I want to look at platform-specific social norms. So I only looked at Twitter, but some people share things on Twitter. Some people share more sensitive things on Instagram. Why are they doing this? How are people deciding on what to share and where? And then cross-platform norms, as I said. Lots of people migrated to different platforms with the Twitter going to X, like Blue Sky, Mastodon, and Threads. How do they compare? Why some people migrated and why some people stay? Maybe compare some private settings, like do the people get their mental models of private settings from Twitter and then carry it over to the other platforms? And then cultural differences. So in all of my studies so far, I did work with the participants in UK or US or English-speaking participants. I want to look at more cultural differences in online social norms. I'm sure the implications of sharing things on Twitter is highly different in Turkey or in UK or US or in another country, maybe in Brazil or maybe India. So I want to look at these tensions on like how people are, maybe people in Turkey know private settings better because they are using it more, or maybe the stakes are higher. So I wanted to get into this, and also how to increase privacy awareness, as I said, and understanding for these online social platforms. This could be more computer engineering, like privacy nudges, like designing privacy nudges, but kind of like design informatics. And then maybe creating plugins and then trying to evaluate these plugins to see if they were increasing the privacy awareness. And the second track of my future directions is generative AI tools. As I said, we know that now ChatGPT is getting a lot of data, not only ChatGPT, but LLMs, and now generative AI tools are collecting data from up for grabs, public data, and then to generate their answers. And a lot of people do some backdoor paddling to get the answers they want from ChatGPT. This is really interesting behavior. They do things like, okay, give me the torrent sites, and then the ChatGPT, I cannot do that. And then the person is like, oh, thank you for like warning me. Can you give me the site so I will avoid them, and I will give you. And then the ChatGPT like will find this behavior and just block it. So it's really like an arms race right now where the users find and exploit. I think they are doing a public data testing basically at this point with the LLMs and ChatGPT. But I'm mostly concerned about how do people use them, and then what are the privacy protection strategies while giving tools sensitive information? Because to get the documents that you need, you might need to give them sensitive information. I'm not sure I don't think lots of people use pseudo information and then just, I don't know, mask and then give their real information when they are giving out the document to somewhere. But I just want to ask people, what are the privacy protection strategies, or do they even know that they are giving information for training, further training for LLM companies? And then again, how does cultural differences impact the privacy behaviors and social norms while using these tools? Do they have different consideration for people, or when they are sharing their tests and such, etc.? And then this is a future direction. This is something I want to do because I did my PhD internship with developers, startup developers actually in Turkey. And I was a startup developer between my master's and PhD in Turkey. So that's something I'm feeling strongly about. So I want to go into generative AI tools and developer perceptions to understand how the developers who create these generative AI tools deals with security and privacy risks. What are their considerations when they are developing these tools? And then how can we support developers to make privacy conscious decisions? Because this privacy and security protection is a really multi-factor problem where in one part, okay, increasing the privacy awareness and security awareness of the users will help. But if we go into the developers and the companies and increase the privacy and security consciousness from there, then users will have less leeway to do mistakes. And then this I have in mind is really similar to my SMP work and do like semi-structured interviews and qualitative analysis and this one. But yeah, I think that's all, and I think I'm on time. So thank you so much.
Great.